What is up, Dallas Cowboys fans, Cowboy Nation? Like always, we do know the Cowboys are going to be, I guess you want to say, another opportunity to show themselves that they are a solid team heading to the playoffs. But this particular week, Week 18, the biggest week for the Dallas Cowboys, I'm going to say, in this regular season, obviously, with major implications for the NFC playoff seeding overall and for the NFC East division crown itself. The Dallas Cowboys find themselves with the opportunity to take over both with a win over the Washington Commanders. We do know the Washington Commanders, a team that the Dallas Cowboys completely dominated earlier this season. Deron Bland obviously setting the NFL record with most pick sixes in one season. Again, a game that the Cowboys just completely dominated, I will say once again, the Washington Commanders. This time is going to be on the road. The Dallas Cowboys, of course, are obviously going to be facing off against a team that has, I guess, beat us last year in the final game of the season. Obviously, these are going to be different circumstances. Sam Howell's finding himself in the mix just because they're trying to find a little upstart for the franchise last year. And the Dallas Cowboys, we had kind of had a playoff spot locked up and solidified already. We were just trying to get some more of our starters, I guess you want to say some more game reps heading into the playoffs. But the Washington Commanders completely dominated the Dallas Cowboys. So this is going to be a game that you can't come in as a Dallas Cowboys player just knowing and saying, hey, we have this thing locked up, because it never plays out that way, especially when you're talking about division rivals. And the Washington Commanders, of course, there is no love lost for the Dallas Cowboys. They would love to put a stain on our hopes and our plans going to the postseason. So the Cowboys are going to have to come out ready, but this is a big week, because one thing I will say, going back to a few weeks prior, of course, we find ourselves in some of these games against the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. Things start to get a little weary not being able to come out on top in these games. But of course, we can kind of go back into again the Lions game, which I will not do. We can go into the implications that kind of held for the NFC. And the Dallas Cowboys coming out on top in that game. I guess you want to say, no matter how you choose to look at it, whether officiating, whether just missed calls in general, and just some missed opportunities for the Dallas Cowboys themselves. They did pull out a win against the Detroit Lions, and now the Dallas Cowboys having that tiebreaker over the Lions, we're in full control. I don't think this is going to be a game the Cowboys need to worry about in the sense of we're some of these guys that are going to be, I'm going to say more so, as a fan base, I don't think this is one of those games where we're going to have to expect the Cowboys to come in and not be ready to go all out. Because again, I think Dak Prescott, I'm going to say right now, Dak Prescott to me is my MVP. Of course, we can talk about Lamar Jackson, the numbers he's put up, the teams that the Ravens have beat overall. But to me, Dak Prescott from start to finish, and I'm going to say start to finish just because there was a different way we were doing things, obviously, at the start of the season. The offense was not as wide open, wasn't as aggressive. But Dak Prescott being able to flip that switch with Mike McCarthy, Brian Schottenheimer, and just be able to kind of just change the trajectory of this team and this offense, especially, that just speaks for itself. Because people don't understand. I personally think that is a very hard thing to do. Being able to kind of course, all the adjustments you go through preseason and training camp, all these things, mini camp, and you have your own idea of how we're going to do things. And obviously, when you realize that's kind of not working, it's all about adjustments. But Dak Prescott being able to flip that switch and take over this entire offense, and I'm going to say this entire team, because one thing is for sure, I feel like the defense itself plays off of Dak Prescott too, and the rest of this offense. So we're going to have to show that Dak Prescott is one of these guys that can be one of those MVP candidates, not only now, but going forward. Because let's be clear, he's still just in year 8. This is not a guy that we're talking about in year 15, 16 of his career. He still has a few good years left in him that I'm going to say some prime years, and hopefully we can see that just become the start. We'll talk about the Washington Commanders game a little bit later this week, before the weekend. But right now, just let yourselves as a fan base and be excited for this team. Be excited for I guess you want to say the trajectory and the potential things that we still have to accomplish out ahead of us. And of course, it's well known at this point, the Dallas Cowboys are looking to bring back La'el Collins. Spent the first 6 years with the Dallas Cowboys. Prior to the draft that he was taken, I'm going to say, the year he was able to come out of college, I believe he was probably a top level first round pick. Ends up with some kind of legal trouble, not necessarily that he was involved with, but it kind of messed with his draft stock. Teams didn't really know what exactly was going to happen with the situation. Ends up being nothing, but the Dallas Cowboys were able to get him as a high priority undrafted pick, and again, paid him a pretty dollar to join his team. Other teams were obviously very interested in a first round talent. La'el Collins was. So the Dallas Cowboys again got the first about 6 years from him. Up and down tenure, I want to say he had his nice spots again where you kind of see the potential in him, but then when he was not playing well, you really saw it affect him. And at some point, the Dallas Cowboys were ready to just cut ties and send him out the door. He ends up signing I believe a 3-year contract. I think it was with the Cincinnati Bengals. And up and down play again, kind of the same thing. La'el Collins, he has so much potential. It's just about having his mind where it needs to be and keeping him healthy. La'el Collins, I feel like he's going to be a guy, to me, more so. This is a guy where you're looking at potentially being more of a, I'm going to say, guard in this situation, because, of course, you do know TJ Bass is the guy we have backing up kind of at this position right now. And we do know the injury Tyler Smith is dealing with, completely tearing his plantar fascia. But, I mean, ironically, it says pretty much Tyler Smith is better off completely tearing it like he did than partially tearing it. Now it's just about how much pain he can kind of endure and deal with. And of course, at this point, I feel like most of us already know. I think Tyler Smith has had a solid Pro Bowl type season at his position. But this is a guy, again, we do know he's tough. I don't think this is going to be anything that you're going to see Tyler Smith off the field, more so especially when the postseason starts. But having La'el Collins back there and potentially being I don't want to say even a swing tackle, because I don't see him even playing anything close to a left tackle if needed in any case or situation, but potentially a guy that could be back there to kind of alleviate some of what Terrence Steele has not done. And I'm not talking about coming in here and becoming a starter and dominating or anything, but being able to be a guy that could potentially give another look in about a few days. Because I believe the playoffs about 10 days away, like I said, something similar to that. So you're just going to have to get La'el Collins in, I guess you want to say, in game shape, because he has not played this up to this point. Cincinnati Bengals kind of had a rocky first season with the team, ends up getting an injury, a major injury, and the Bengals cut ties with him, I believe, in September. So he's been on the streets, on the couch up to this point of the season. So the Dallas Cowboys getting him this late, again, just to me, is going to be more of a depth piece. I don't think the contract is done yet, but it's kind of believed that it will be solidified. I believe he already let out an IG post pretty much saying how he's happy to be back home. And of course, he's comfortable in these headquarters. He's been around these facilities. He's been around some of these guys already, of course. So La'el Collins, again, it's just going to be a nice, solid piece. I don't think there's any issue with just adding depth going into the postseason, because we do know in Week 18 is going to be very big implications on the NFC overall, but especially the NFC East division crown. So we just need to keep adding bodies, getting guys healthy, and seeing where the cards fall. A day or so ago, reports come out that the New York Jets and Dalvin Cook have mutually looked to part ways. Dalvin Cook trying to find himself on a postseason team in the last week of the season. I believe he probably will find himself a team. And I'm going to say, personally, I kind of spoke on it a little bit in my personal life. I'm talking about just kind of talking to friends or whatever. I believe it'll be a good, nice signing. And I'm not saying nice signing as a guy that's going to come in here and even contribute much, but we're talking about just depth pieces at this point. The Dallas Cowboys running back room has gotten very thin, because Rico Dowdle, to me, a guy I look to play a huge part in this offense, again, coming into the regular season, behind Tony Pollard, because to me, he's the most, I guess you want to say, overall back. We're talking about a guy that runs with some aggression, runs with some intensity. He has a little movement he can make to a Rico Dowdle at certain points, and he's a solid pass protector, but he has he has dealt with some injuries over about the last month or so, and it's kind of affected his progress and some of these results. And again, to me, going to the postseason, one thing I never want my team, especially the Dallas Cowboys I'm talking about, to be worried about is depth and injuries, and just not having somebody back there in case you need somebody back there to alleviate some of these issues. I feel like Deuce Vaughn could potentially find a role for himself on this team, which at some point, of course, I feel like he still can be able to find his niche in the NFL, and hopefully it's with the Dallas Cowboys. But going forward, we do know, especially in his rookie year, the biggest issue Deuce Vaughn is still having is just his size. He's a small guy. You can't change that. At the end of the day, Deuce Vaughn is what he is. And to me, that worries me when it comes to the postseason, because teams will utilize that. If we're having to use Deuce Vaughn in some of these situations behind Tony Pollard, teams are going to be able to notice that. And you're going to have to ask yourself, as Mike McCarthy and an offensive mind, are you able to, I'm going to say exactly like this, are you able to keep Deuce Vaughn out of situations that he doesn't want to be in? And to me, that's obviously going to be, we're talking about pass protection. He's just a small guy. It is what it is. And not having Rico Dowdle back there. And Tony Pollard, he's had more of a solid season. I don't think Tony Pollard's season has been remotely as bad as some people have called it, but it hasn't been spectacular to what people hoped his trajectory could be. Of course, after we let Ezekiel Elliott leave the team. So the Dallas Cowboys are going to have to continue to add some depth. And to me personally, just adding a Dalvin Cook in there, again, a guy that's far from what he used to be. I'll call it that. People use the term washed. I can't even say they're wrong, because at this point, we're talking about a guy, I believe he is averaging 3.2 yards per carry this season, fell into the, I guess you want to say, the doghouse of the running back room with the New York Jets. A guy that signed a contract with the Jets believing he's going to play with Aaron Rodgers, and obviously that changed completely, very quickly for the Jets this regular season. So Dalvin Cook found himself behind, I guess you want to say, behind the 8 ball a little bit, and some of these other younger guys are getting more opportunity, and he's looking to find himself in there. This is talking about a guy been in the league 7 years, I believe, topping the 1,500-yard rushing mark one season, and the 1,000-yard mark 4 times overall, and being a 4-time Pro Bowler. Dalvin Cook, we've seen him at his best. We've seen the playmaker that he could be. I don't think he's even close to that anymore. But again, just a guy that you could potentially have in there as a veteran presence, a guy that has been in the league. He can kind of help some of these other guys out when it comes to a Tony Pollard. And sometimes you may never know who you may be able to kind of see be one of those X factors on any given playoff game. Again, maybe it could be a guy, Dalvin Cook just finds himself getting a little bit of red zone work if Mike McCarthy and Brian Schottenheimer and these guys deem that necessary. So again, I'm not calling him, he's going to be a savior or come in here and be an all-pro type running back with the Dallas Cowboys or anything. But again, just a guy that I feel like the Cowboys could and probably should, depending on how, again, what the kind of contract he's looking at, because I'm not willing to give him anything insane. But if Dalvin Cook is able to come in here and just be a veteran presence and just be another guy that you can have another set of eyes in that running back room, dealing with some injuries and some uncertainty with the guys behind Tony Pollard, I'm cool with that. The Dallas Cowboys have a few opponents they could potentially be facing going into Week 18, and things are still up in the air. I'm going to say in limbo a little bit with some of these matchups. But me, I'm of the mindset as a Cowboys fan, especially, I don't really care who we play, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to handle your business. You can kind of hide and try to duck teams as much as you can. Of course, we do know if the Cowboys can lock up that 2 seed, it's going to pay major dividends, because you potentially not have to face a team like the San Francisco 49ers until potentially an NFC Championship game. But we do not know how any of these games are going to go, even on the 49ers side. So let's be very clear. At the end of the day, this is the postseason. If you're not ready to play whoever and not dominate whoever is going to be in front of you, then you shouldn't be in the postseason at the end of the day. Because I'm going to say pretty much it's a game of inches. Let's be clear. It's a game of inches. So you could be playing the team with the better record, the worst record. At the end of the day, everyone's trying to pull out a win by any means necessary. So handle your business, and you have nothing else to talk about other than that. I'm going to say right now, I believe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are sitting at 8-8 and atop of the NFC South right now, tied with the Saints as well, with the same record. But I believe up to at this point right now, the Buccaneers do have the tiebreaker. This is a team that I don't see falling out of that loop. I think the only way that pretty much the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could fall into that 7th spot, and I'm speaking as the Cowboys winning in Week 18. I'm not even talking about potential 3 spots, 3 seed opponents if you fall to the 3 seed or if you end up not winning or whatever. I'm not even talking about any of that. We're not going to have to go into that. Let's talk about what's going to happen if the Cowboys do handle their business. And also, again, we're talking about, again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We already know we faced them last year with Tom Brady, sent him on his way home onto retirement. And again, this is a team that they're playing much better towards the end of the season, looking at how Baker Mayfield is coming into his own with that team. Mike Evans still making plays, but that's the least likely potential matchup as of right now. Right after that, you're going to be facing a team potentially in the Green Bay Packers. We know the history the Packers and the Cowboys have had in the postseason. We don't have to go back to the years. We're talking about 2014, also 2016, Dak and Zeke's rookie year. We know how these games have gone, the 3rd and 20 or the Dez Carter games. It is what it is. Right now, Jordan Love is starting to show himself as being a very capable NFL quarterback right now. I believe sitting with 30 touchdown passes on the season, and he's gotten better and better as the season has gone on. We know Matt LaFleur, he can pretty much call up an offense if he has the right pieces around him, and Jordan Love is starting to show that he is a capable quarterback, like I said. I believe reported by Bobby Belt, this pretty much the playoff scenarios right now, sourced by Bobby Belt. Green Bay is one of the likelier teams to finish with the number 7 seed. The Packers have won 5 of their last 7 games, including victories over the Chiefs at Lambeau and the Lions on the road. During this stretch of 7 games, quarterback Jordan Love has found his groove, throwing for 16 touchdowns to just 1 interception. Given Mike McCarthy's history in Green Bay, a matchup between the Packers and Cowboys would provide plenty of intrigue. We do know right now, like I said, that's been I'm going to say tumultuous battles the Cowboys have always found ourselves in when it comes to the playing against the Green Bay Packers. I believe right now, I don't want to misquote it, so I'm going to try to get these records right on point. Like I said, the Buccaneers and the Saints, both of those teams sitting at the 8 seed, sitting at 8-8 right now. The Green Bay Packers as well sitting at 8-8. So the Cowboys, again, if you're going to find yourself being able to play anyone, you can't sit here and be making excuses and being scared of any opponent. It is what it is. You face who is going to be right in front of you. The Minnesota Vikings sitting with a 7-9 record, and I believe they face the Detroit Lions in the final week of the season. The Detroit Lions, they've already have the division locked up, so it's pretty much up in the air how exactly they're looking to approach their Week 18 matchup. Are they going to rest any players? Whatever it is the case, but we'll have to see. Once again, the Minnesota Vikings, they're also obviously without Kirk Cousins. They lost him long time ago, dealing with some injuries. We do know Justin Jefferson, that's Jordan Addison I was thinking of, but Justin Jefferson, missing some time this year with a hamstring injury, finally finding his way back. And then the quarterback carousel after losing Kirk Cousins, trading for Josh Dobbs, who had a nice game or two, and then all of a sudden the train completely fell off the tracks in that scenario. And now Nick Mullins has found himself in and out of the rotation as the lineup, I'm going to say, as a starting quarterback. And I believe he will be facing the Detroit Lions as a starter this week once again. So the Minnesota Vikings, the Vikings will need some help to sneak into the playoffs as a number 7 seed. Minnesota has lost 3 in a row, and they're without Kirk Cousins and TJ Hawkinson for the remainder of the season. A tight end was almost at 1,000 yards for the Minnesota Vikings, so that's going to be a major loss for them. Minnesota's greatest threat to the Cowboys will be their excellent receiving duo of Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. So once again, like I said, at the end of the day, every team, even the worst teams to the best teams, you're going to have some matchup potential matchup weapons that you can kind of employ. And we do know Justin Jefferson is a very capable playmaker in this league, probably top 2, top 3 type receivers in this league when he's healthy. And then you're looking at Jordan Addison, a very capable receiver himself. So like I said, it's up in the air. But the Cowboys, again, it's gonna be very interesting to see exactly who's going to be that potential opponent. The Rams sitting in the 6th seed right now with a 9-7 record, and the Dallas Cowboys are obviously, we faced them a little earlier this season and handled them handedly and comfortably. But the Rams of the last few weeks, this team is starting to ramp up. And let's be clear, they do still have some weapons. Matt Stafford is very capable as a quarterback still in this league. Let's be very clear about that. Cooper Kupp himself dealing with a few injuries over the last couple years, but he is still a guy that you have to know where he is on any given play. And Puka Nacua, that's pretty much who's taken over as their lead receiver, in my opinion, and as a rookie just stepped up majorly. I believe 1,400 receiving yards already, either broke the receiving record or close to it. Again, this is a guy where you're sitting here and you're going to have to figure out where exactly the biggest matchup threats are going to be. And to me, it's the wide receiver position for them, because they still have some guys that can make plays if you're not handling your business, whether in the trenches and the pass rush and just stopping the run game overall, because they also have a running back. I believe Kyron Williams is back in the lineup for them. They still have some players. Let's be clear. Now, the Cowboys made easy work of the Rams in Week 8, beating them 43-20 at AT&T Stadium. But this is a different Rams team than it was in October. The Rams have won 6 of their last 7, with their lone loss coming in overtime on the road against the NFL's best team in the Baltimore Ravens. Matthew Stafford has a passer rating of almost 110 over the last 6 games. A win by the Packers and a loss for the Rams against the 49ers will give Los Angeles the 7th seed. It's going to be also very interesting to see what exactly the 49ers do. I don't believe they are any stretch of the imagination playing many of their major starters, because at this point they have the number 1 seed locked up in the NFC. So the Rams is going to be very interesting. They will be a tough matchup for the Cowboys. I don't think it'll go as smoothly as it did the first time, and I mean just more so for the simple fact, this is the postseason, it's the playoffs, and they do have some battle-tested players here and there. We do, again, some of those guys still remaining from that Rams Super Bowl team. So let's be clear, if the Cowboys are going to be, going to be the team that's going to be what they believe they are, you may potentially have to face off against the Rams and show them that you are serious this year. With the Saints sitting just outside the playoff of the NFC picture right now, and sitting in second place in the NFC South right now behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they are still in the mix for a playoff spot, depending on some things going their way in Week 18. New Orleans has won 3 of their last 4 games and finds themselves in the thick of the playoff race entering the final week of the season. The Saints boast a top 10 defense in the NFL, and Derek Carr is playing his best ball of the season down the stretch. The Saints have a losing record of 4-5 on the road this season, which is exactly where the Dallas Cowboys have shown that we're very good, and I mean in terms of being at home. So that's going to be a team, and let's be clear, again, I also agree with the sentiment that the Saints have a very nice defense. So that's a team that could potentially show the Cowboys offense some issue, because again, we do know in the playoffs it's about lucky bounces sometimes, and it's about inopportune playmaking. And the Saints defense, to me, in my personal opinion, is definitely capable of that. And on the offensive side, they still have some weapons. Let's be clear. So in the NFL, as we speak on all the time, any given Sunday, any given game, any given matchup. But the Saints are still in the mix, and we'll see how this plays out. And last but not least, the Seattle Seahawks sitting at 8-8 and right outside the playoff picture once again in the NFC. I believe in the 8th spot right now. Excuse me. The Seattle Seahawks, we already know the battle that the Dallas Cowboys had with them not too long ago, a few weeks ago at home. So this is going to be a game for the Dallas Cowboys. This would be a game, would be a game for the Dallas Cowboys to show that it was not just one of those sneak away wins and that we are just a much better team than the Seattle Seahawks. There were some things obviously on the offensive side that the Seattle Seahawks have, some capabilities. We're talking about a healthy Geno Smith. We do know what Tyler Lockett has always been for the Seahawks, and DK Metcalf going over 1,000 yards once again, just weapons all over the place. And they do still have Zach Charbonnet in the running game. They have Penny, I believe, still. I mean Kenneth Walker. Excuse me, not Penny. I mean Kenneth Walker out of that running back room. So the Seattle Seahawks have some very capable playmakers and weapons when it comes to them. Again, offensively, more so defensively, they still have some issue. I feel like the Cowboys would just be another high-scoring game shootout if our defense does not come locked in and not making some of the same mistakes. But the Seattle Seahawks, they find themselves in that final playoff spot, playing against the Dallas Cowboys in the first round. Let's be clear, this could be a game to keep an eye out for. The Cowboys fans are very familiar with the Seahawks from their recent shootout at AT&T Stadium that saw Dallas top Seattle 41-35. The Seahawks have a dynamic receiving trio and have already shown they can keep pace with the Cowboys in Arlington, something that's been a struggle for most teams over the past 2 seasons. Seattle will need a win over the Cardinals and some additional help to sneak into the playoffs as the number 7 seed. But we do know anything can happen, especially in NFL, so we will see. This will be an exciting Week 18 for Dallas Cowboys fans all around. We have lots of things to keep an eye out for, not only our team, but also some of the other teams around the league. There are going to be some games, again, that are going to be going on, and the Cowboys are going to want to know exactly who we're facing, because at the end of the day, this is now the time to start getting ready for those Super Bowl runs that you've been talking about since the offseason, since training camp, mini camp, everything like the sort. It's now time to put all the work together. It's time to put everything that you've kind of built throughout the week. I'm saying through week 1 all the way to week 17 up to this point. It's time to put everything together and show this is a real team that is serious for real this season. We'll see exactly how it goes. As always, I appreciate you guys for the support. Go ahead and keep liking, commenting, and sharing. We're almost at 800 subscribers. We are still rising, and I love it, and I appreciate all the support. You guys are amazing. You're the most important, I'm going to say the most important aspect of this channel, because I love to see you guys' thoughts and opinions on anything that we have to discuss. So I appreciate you guys as always. And once again, we know exactly what it is. Go Cowboys.